All right. Good morning, good morning. Let's get some episodes in real quick. All right, just grabbing my notebook. Welcome to today's stream. I'm not even going to wait for anybody else. We're just going to go right into recording. Okay. Okay. Okay, just writing down some notes for today's episodes. We're going to do a quick and easy one. We're going to get right into it. Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I'm your host DK, and today Lou is not with me. We're going old school, back to when it was just me. Are y'all fans enough of the show to remember when it was just me for a little while? Well, we're back to it, so that means this episode may be a little bit shorter. There's also going to be less pushback, which means I can say whatever I want and nobody can tell me otherwise, which is dangerous at the very least. But today's episode is going to be very simple, very practical, something I've been thinking about. In the earlier version of the show, it was more obvious that it was like this. It still has the underlying tone of this, but one of the main purposes of the show from the beginning was to kind of be a journal, an audio journal of my progress through my career. So things that I'm learning currently, things that are important to me right now, things that are changing, what I hope changes, things that I see in myself. And that way, when I look back at older episodes, I can see the progress that I've made, or if I ever show my children or grandchildren, or they discover my podcast, then they too can not just learn obvious tips and techniques, but can kind of also see the progress of my career. So if you've been a long-time listener of the podcast, you'll notice that my career has shifted in some ways very subtly and has shifted in some ways incredibly. When we first started, I was in Utah, for example, and now we are in Los Angeles. And when I first started, I had some work. Now we're getting into some label stuff, which is a totally different game. I want everybody who's listening, as well as for myself, to showcase, the different thought process. There's been times where I've been extremely arrogant, more than just always, above baseline. And there's been times where I've been very well thoughtful and surprisingly so many times. But today's episode is going to be another practical one, something that we've talked about very little in the past. Something that hold on, give me a second here. Today's episode is going to be fairly practical, something that we've talked about in the past, but I want to reemphasize. One of the things that I'm going through currently is I'm going through the decision of whether or not I want to redesign my studio. I have a big desk with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 3, 24U of rack right in front of me, 24 rack spaces, 24U, and then I have my monitor behind that and my speakers on stands on the back end of the desk. And I love this setup, and if you've ever seen my Instagram, then you know what it looks like currently. And I love it, but I've been seeing a trend here in Los Angeles, and something that I got on before I got this big desk, and I was trying out for about a year, was the minimalist small desk setup, something that I still see more and more people converting to, which is the concept of, one, having a little bit less gear, or moving it off to the side out of the way, and having just a plain desk with a minimalist feel, just a computer monitor, mouse and keyboard, maybe a monitor controller, just super simple. And I personally dig that aesthetic. I think it comes off, for me, I see it as, I love the minimalist type, elegant. I think there's I love the, the traditionally Japanese elegance, which is more simplified and less cluttered. I do like that. And it feels a little bit more zen, maybe cozy, whatever words you want to use that are trending right now. But I'm deciding whether or not to go back and do that again. And as I've been trying to consider redesigning my studio, there's a few concepts that I want to bring up. In past episodes, Lou and I have brought up many times that a trip to IKEA may make you more money than a trip to Sweetwater or to Guitar Center. The reason why this is important is, unfortunately, whether or not you like it, I find, through observation as well as personal experience, that looking like you know what you're doing is almost as important, if not more important, than actually knowing what you're doing. Now, obviously, both parts of that are extremely important. But if you know what you're doing, but you don't look like you do, you don't get a first shot. You might be able to keep, once you get a shot, you might be able to keep those clients for a long time and you become everybody's best kept secret. But you don't want to be everybody's best kept secret. You want to be someone that's well known to do good work. And how are you to get more first-time customers or clients if you don't look like you know what you're doing? And I hate that. This is a part of humanity, the part of human nature, that is unfortunate, difficult, but can be empowering and used to help you build clientele, especially if your studio is something that you show on social media quite often, or more likely you are into recording and producer where clients come into the studio. Even if you don't post it that much, I mean, mixing and mastering engineers typically, depending if it's not a big studio, there's no real big need to show your space. But if you're planning on showing your space, if you're planning on making content, or if you are, again, bringing in clients for recording and producing, looking like you know what you're doing is very important. Again, even if you're just making silly little YouTube videos with the goal of making money off of YouTube rather than from recording or mixing or whatever, again, looking like you know what you're doing is very important. We see this in YouTube all the time. Videos that look very professional, edited very well. For some reason, people tend to trust them a little bit more. Again, regardless of whether or not that's good, that's just reality. So there's a few different things that I want you to consider as a listener to help clean up your space. And part of the cleaning up your space is not just for the clients and to help potentially make it look like you know what you're doing, but also for your own personal mental decluttering. As creatives who are typically high in openness, as much as we can, the more that we declutter, the more that we have to create the space to create and think. So I want to be creative. So I have made a list of a few things that I think everybody should be doing from time to time, and things that I do from time to time that can, for very little or for free, revamp the space, make you look a little bit more professional, and things that matter on a day-to-day basis. So number one, how often do you clean up, vacuum, vacuum your studio? Clean up your studio, take out the trash, throw stuff away. I'm a huge fan of kind of like the Marie Kondo Does this spark joy? Does this item make you happy? If not, throw it away. Even with my kids' toys, I'm kind of brutal in the sense that if I don't see them playing with it often, or if I see them throwing it around the room, I will throw it away. If they don't touch it for a long time, I will watch. If they haven't played with it in a month, or even in a couple weeks, or if things are broken or left on the floor, I will throw it away. I will definitely throw away. If my children get sad, and this is something where I don't want to use the word entitlement, I don't think, but I have the relative flexibility where I'm willing to throw things away, and if I really need it in the future, I'm willing to go on Amazon and pay the $10 to $40 or whatever it is to buy it again, if I really need it. And obviously, it's different for more expensive items, but I want to throw it away. The idea is, I mean, I've even heard concepts as far as like if you have stuff in storage and you haven't even opened it and looked at it for years, like don't even open it again, just throw it away, just let it go. The more space that you have, the more open the room feels, and obviously the more professional you want. This is really potentially judgmental, but again, I want to, this is just kind of part of human nature, and I want to emphasize that it makes very little effect practically, but it can showcase that your priorities and your values. Things like, I've even heard people say something like this, not myself, but I've heard others comment and say to my car, DK, I can tell that you take care of your stuff, that you have your shit together because your car is clean. And I know that's like really stupid. That's really stupid. But at the same time, there is some level of PR that goes into keeping your car clean and someone seeing that, especially when you have 2 young kids. It's hard to keep your car clean. And there's some effort that I find personal joy with it. I'm not naturally a clean person at all, but I'm finding more joy in keeping a clean home and a clean office every day. The amount of hours we spend every week just cleaning up the house after the kids is pretty crazy. But if I'm able to keep my house clean, my office clean, my car clean with kids, relatively speaking, it's not all the time. There are going to be moments, if you catch me off guard, it will not be clean. But if you keep your things clean, then that will actually go towards a personal brand and will also help you in your mental health, keep a clear mind. So there's a lot of benefits to that, obviously. So go ahead and vacuum that studio, clean space up, throw things away. And for a lot of people, if your studio room is bright pink or bright purple or like mint green, like my shirt that I'm wearing right now, if you're watching on YouTube, you need to paint that shit. Oh my goodness, that is so gaudy. It's so gaudy. Please stop. Paint it like a normal ass color, even if it's more subdued color like navy or like a forest green or like a pastel, some sort of Scandinavian pastel. Do not, oh my goodness, just paint that. Just paint that. Don't use like cheap paint that was at Home Depot because it didn't sell. It didn't sell for a fucking reason. Okay, paint your studio. And that's like a one-time thing. You do it. It's fairly cheap. You just paint it. It's just a lot of labor. Not even that much labor. Okay. Number 2, I already said decluttering, throwing things away. Toys are cool. I have a lot of toys. I have like a lot of manga, for example. I have a lot of like figurines from anime that I really like. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, I have like Elmo and Big Bird over here, as well as Joe Dart bobblehead from Wolfpack. I even have like, I build mechanical keyboards, so I have like a mechanical keyboard over here, a couple mechanical keyboards on my desk shelf. I have toys. I like toys, but with a proper use of space, I think toys can bring accents and can kind of bring a vibe, but throw things away, put things away. I've done this multiple times because I've moved studios multiple times, and there's a lot of things that stay in the storage boxes that don't come out. I'm trying to be, and I think I'm going to declutter again with this next redesign here, where I'm going to remove, or at least I'm going to add a little corner shelf back here if you're watching on YouTube, a little corner shelf, and I'm going to move my toys from my desk to my corner shelf so I can have an accented corner while leaving my desk a little bit more decluttered. That's the hope there, and I think that that's really important. Number 3 is Pinterest, the power of Pinterest. Now, this is something that a lot of people use, so if you aren't already using Pinterest, Pinterest is a very powerful app. I like it a lot. There's been times in my life where I use Pinterest more than any other social media. It's not even a social media. And you can build boards. It's basically like a digital cork board that you gather pictures and videos of. It's just an inspiration cork boards, and you can have different inspirational boards and you can pin different pictures to them. I've used this a lot for interior design. I'm not an interior designer by any mean, but as I've designed different studios and offices, I steal inspiration from other studios that I really like, and it comes together in my own way based on my preferences. So I'm not copying somebody else's, but I'm taking heavy inspiration from specific ones. But it's not... anyway, so using Pinterest for inspiration, I think that's also really important to help you figure out what your personal flavors are, your personal color scheme and designs that you really like, your accents. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But to have a clear vision, one of the things that I don't think you should do is just redesign your space or design your space without having a clear inspiration or clear collage of ideas. That you have to, I think that this is almost mandatory. Very few savants can do that. Like, I don't think anyone can be creative and stay organized on a blank canvas without a shit ton of experience. And none of us listening to this podcast are professional interior designers. If we were, I don't know why you're doing music. All right. I'm teasing. That is like really important. So again, the importance of Pinterest or organization of, it's okay if you like purple or if you like Gundam, but you don't like whatever. Some people like a closey, more greeny, leafy aesthetic, things of that nature. So whatever, it's important to choose inspiration based on your personal flavors. And if you can go into your board that you've created and start deleting the ones that you like less, you can really hone in and be specific with your preferences, which the last point that we're going to talk about is the distinction, and the more specific of an aesthetic it is, the better it is. But the next thing that I want to talk about is really important. This is a big one for me, and this should be a big one for you. This is something that everyone should be working on constantly. It's fairly cheap to do. It just takes some planning and quite a bit of labor. And there's a bunch of tools on Amazon to do this, which is cable management. I'm going to say that again with your desk. Cable management. This is a big deal within like the tech remote work kind of industry. If you work from home, if you code, cable management is important. I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, we are always constantly posting our setups on whatever website or forums, on Discord, on Instagram. I think the number one indicator of whether or not I think something looks professional is cable management. If I can see a single fucking power cable, it just throws off the entire vibe and looks less well thought out. It looks less thought out. That's what it is. If you can get away with making everything look wireless, hiding cables, clipping them underneath the desk, using some sort of cable box behind the desk, screwing them in, using some like 3N tape and taping them down the back of the table leg so it's always hidden. You get a rug and you hide the cable under the rug. If you can somehow get away with doing less cables, or I've seen studios where they only have one thick cable where they have like some sort of like wrap around the cable. So you have like 10 cables, but it's wrapped to look like one thick cable, and that one thick cable is just going across to the desk. So you minimize the amount of cables that it looks so professional. It looks so well thought out. If you have a monitor and some audio, like studio monitors, some headphones, but it's just like a shit ton of cables underneath the desk, below the desk, and it's just a mess. It's almost metaphorical. I don't know what it is. It feels metaphorical. It feels like an insight into the way someone thinks. So you just mess it up in the back, but you make the front look respectable. Like that's just. It's okay if the back looks messy, but you just gotta hide it. Look at some of the best studios on Pinterest or on Instagram. The cleanest looking ones always have great cable management. So again, with $15, you can get like a 195-piece Amazon cable management set. You can get some cable hiding boxes that you can screw in for cheap, or like do some 3M tape. Anyway, cable management is important. Something that constantly needs to be tweaked, especially as you add more gear. And a lot of studio desks, if you are considering buying a desk for your studio, many studio desks come with some sort of cable management systems where you can hide cables underneath. So that's just important. Keep them off the floor or hide them behind legs or something like that. Very big. Last thing is lighting. This is more important for if you're taking videos like I am. Like I have a lighting setup that is conducive to good lighting for when I live stream and make YouTube videos. I have to do very little color adjustment. It's very easy. It looks purple in the background, except it's light on my face. You can see it, so it's just very conducive to that. But lighting as well as like color schemes. Some people go as far as going into, there's a lot of like psychology-based stuff, like different colors tend to provoke different emotions in different people. I don't know what they are. I don't care for it. I just like the color purple, but apparently purple pisses people off the most. I don't know. I don't care. I like, you got to like what you like. You got to be pretty clear about it. And having good lighting in the studio, keeping it vibrant if you like it really dark. Yeah, whatever it is, with LEDs, with light setups. There's I've seen like RGB different types of setups, and the cool thing about any sort of like Grovey RBG type setup is that you can change the color scheme, and you can even change the warmth of the white, make it more yellow or make it more daylight, make it more blue, things of that nature. Okay, the last thing is to have a distinct style. Now, this is a metaphor into anything creative, including mixing. At the end of the day, as a mixer, the job is to not be noticed. Like a good mix, nobody will think about the mix. They'll just listen to the song, right? And with the studio setup, but at the same time, like also a great mix, you have maybe you have you come to that conclusion, you come to that mix based off of your personal filters and biases that you naturally create from your taste. That's more of kind of like an inevitable thing, but if you can utilize that to create more of a brand, even better for you. The more distinct of a preference that you have, the more specific you have. Some people really like steampunk. Some people really like Disney. Some people really like Jordans and Nike. Some people are hypebeasts. Some people are childish. Some people love some people love Pokemon, like Lou. And I think more importantly is if you have a distinct style, whatever that is that you find and describe and come to terms with through inspiration boards like Pinterest, through saving things on Instagram, things of that nature, the more clear you are with your branding and your styling. This goes heavily into our marketing episodes that we've done in the past about avatars and knowing who your customer is. For example, if you are trying to be a hip-hop studio, you want to make hip-hop music, it's probably not a good idea to just do a bunch of Barbie stuff everywhere, right? But if you are a studio that is, in some weird, unique way, if you really, really, really like Barbies and you're trying... I don't know. That's not a good example. But there's different ideas and aesthetics that can attract different crowds. That's all I'm going to say. And if you are able to use your own preference, like you wouldn't want to attract hip-hop clients if you don't actually like hip-hop. So if you like hip-hop culture, then you'll probably like sneakers. You probably like different hypebeast fashion brands and things of that nature. So that would fit well. So I think that this will be natural, but I think you should also consider doing things on purpose. Again, whatever that means, it's okay to be different, even if you are hip-hop. I know a couple hip-hop studios. One hip-hop studio that does a lot of hip-hop and Afro beats, but it's like a total steampunk vibe, because that's what the engineer really likes. And it works really well. It's very conducive to that. So just something to think about. Put in your own personal flavor, your own personal tastes. And to be specific, don't be afraid to use your own personal taste, but also do consider your customers, your clientele, and who you want to bring into the studio, what kind of clients you want to attract. Because whether or not you do it on purpose, you are building a personal brand. So might as well do it on purpose. That is one of our biggest things that we always say on this podcast. And I think that's pretty much it. It's pretty clear. I care for my space. I'm sure you do. And as we all continue to go through different cycles and evolutions of our recording, mixing, studio spaces, our creative spaces, that we continue to upgrade and not just change. We also upgrade our thinking, our processes, our artistic personalities and direction processes. I hope we continue to upgrade them for better efficiency and for more clarity. And as we get more focused, I'm sure that there will be more focused experience and focused clientele as well. So these are things that have been on my mind. Again, cable management is huge. Please take care of your cables. I'm always trying to hide mine. It's a difficult one, but it takes time. It takes time, but it's really, really helpful. And on that note, if you want more technical tips, like how to use a compressor, how to use an EQ, how to change up a kick drum, how to make the kick drum and bass balance, I don't know, whatever, phase, overheads, linear phase EQs, drum triggering, things of that nature, go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive to get 2 exclusive episodes every single week. Me and James from James Dean Mixes, me and James, we go over YouTube clips, live stream clips, Instagram clips, TikTok clips, and we talk about the nuances of different technical tips from various different producers and engineers, and we break them down and simplify them and explain them in a way that works best to start including into your own workflow. And there's even a few episodes where I've never tried that. That's going to be my emphasis this week as I try to do that. So it's fun. Like, it's very honest, fun, and it's just the two of us, and it's because it's behind a paywall and not everybody's going to listen to it. I have to put a little bit of an acting, like I fan bait a lot on this podcast. I piss people off on purpose, but on the exclusive stuff, since it's a lot more private, we get like the real DK, the real James kind of behind the scenes. So it's a lot more it's a lot of fun. And on that note, so again, once again, that's mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive for $4 a month or $40 a year. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you have some other topics that you do want to hear, join our Discord and type them into the chat. Tag me or Lou or James if you want more exclusive episode stuff. And on that note, happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy. Okay, let's end the recording. That was almost the perfect length. Okay, let's read these comments. So I was focused on the recording. When I'm recording, I'm not really looking at comments. How did you do that your Twitch and YouTube chat shows up at the same chat? Because I'm the GOAT. You might be cleaning your car in your house, but I'm doing next level shit. I don't even have a car or house, so I don't have to clean anything. Oh, hell yeah. That's 500 IQ right there. 500 IQ. Don't own anything. That's minimalism to the extreme. We're all just trying to be like Jack Reacher. What is the right interface to buy to track vocals at home before transferring a project to a big studio? Whatever interface. I think that you should pick an interface based off of 2 things: aesthetics and workflow. For example, if you have a desk and you don't have rack gear, I don't think you should buy a 19-inch 1U or 2U interface because you don't have a place to put it. And if you don't, if you have an all black desk in a dark room and you have like a bright white interface, I guess that would work. But I don't know. I would buy based on aesthetics, workflow. Some companies have better support as well. And some companies just do not continue, stop supporting different devices. I don't think we're at a point with technology that buying one interface, even if it's like a really cheap $85 one or $100 one, we're not at a big disadvantage anymore. Like technology has advanced so much that getting a $100 interface and getting a $3,000 interface doesn't have as big of a difference as you think it does. So I would just get it based on aesthetics, workflow, and needs. For example, if you don't have acoustic treatment, you probably should spend less on your interface and use that remaining money, that budget that you did have for acoustic treatment or a better mic. Yeah. There are a few things that I think microphones is something that you should spend more money on. Acoustic treatment, it's more of just doing it rather than buying the nicer brands. The nicer brands just make it easier for you. So if you're willing to build it, you can save a lot of money. Anyway, what are the 5 best plugins for mixing that you can use at home? That's different for everybody. I could change the question. It's like the 5 most used plugins across the board by the most professionals is one way I can answer that. The 5 plugins I use the most recently, right now, I can answer that. But the 5 best plugins for mixing that you can use at home are probably just like the 5 stock plugins that come with whatever DAW that you have. I don't. That's probably going to be my answer without specifying. And again, the concept, my channel, my concept, people don't like it, and it's not as attractive, but I'm always, always, always going to be in the empowering, on the side of empowerment through using the tools that you have. I will outmix anybody right now that's watching the stream that listens to the podcast with stock plugins, because it's not a matter of what plugins you have. I promise you, I will outmix you with fucking stock Reaper plugins. God damn it. I will. What's like a notoriously bad stock Pro Tools plugins, Pro Tools stock plugins. They're not actually that bad, but top 5 best plugins for mixing. Yeah, I don't know quite how to answer that. You got to be more specific. My cable management definitely needs work. Now I feel motivated to do them today. Yeah. Me too. I got a few cables that I'm looking at right now that I'm well, I don't want to like clean it up because I might there's like cables right here too. I've actually hidden them underneath this acoustic panel. See how the power cable goes behind the acoustic panel, which goes down? I could clean it up better with some cheap plastic rails or something like that. Hold on. Okay, that's fine. No, not a weird flex. Yeah, I'll outmix you with stock plugins. It's not a weird flex. In fact, it would be embarrassing if I couldn't. If with the amount of experience that I have, and the number of songs I've worked on for the number of years that I have, if I couldn't beat a hobbyist with stock plugins that has every Acoustica or UAD plugin, that's sad. That would be sad. So. And as Lou always says, yeah, plot twist, I'm Servan Ganea, who is famous for not using any crazy tools. He's like, he not only is totally in the box, but he uses a set of monitors that I genuinely don't like. The monitors that he uses mainly are the monitors that we had in the mix studios that I brought in here for a little while to test. I hate them. I think they're gross. They sound gross. And I don't know how he does it. And then also he doesn't use any crazy plugins. Like he's talked a few times on like kind of his workflow. It's very simple. He's one of those mixers where less is more. If you have the budget to hire Servan Ganea, it's been properly recorded and produced before he gets it. So he does very little. I've heard before and afters of Servan. It's surprising and alarming how little change there is between a non-mixed rough mix from a professional producer and a fully mixed song from Servan. It's very interesting. There's a lot of commentary behind that, a lot of nuance and commentary behind that. Yeah, they use simple stuff. I was impressed. One of my favorite plugins I've been using recently is the El Rey from Acoustica. It was on sale, so I got it under $100 because I think it's usually like $250 to $300. I've been using that a lot. I really, really, really like it. And I was surprised to see a Servan Ganea preset button. He has 3 presets on that. And Servan doesn't come out of the layer like that. It's interesting. Also kind of his branding and PR is kind of old school. Very 48 Laws of Power. Keep your processes secret to make it feel like magic. Versus nowadays, it's more trendy and it's a little bit easier to understand. Like what I'm doing, sharing all of my secrets to create authority and power that way. So but he's a little bit more old school by staying a little secretive. Also, I think he's just like a private person. Some people are. Yeah, El Rey is amazing. The way it adds low end, it cuts like the upper mid range. I really, really like it. It's like it honestly sounds better than my actual outboard tube gear that I have. Like I did like comparisons with all my like outboard tube gear, and I like the El Rey more. Like not by a small margin. Oh wow! So like I've been using my gear less and less, which is part of the reason why I'm like selling a lot of my gear right now, because I want to have, instead of like, half a dozen or more, or a little bit more than half a dozen pieces that I like, that are like at an upper level, I want to have like 2 or 3 best of the best pieces, like even 1 or 2 expensive best of the best pieces, instead of having 5 or 6 more affordable pieces. So we'll see what happens. Also, I'm very much into the Wes Audio Better Maker digitally controlled analog, because if I can have the analog gear over here on a side rack, and I could just control it with a plugin, oh my goodness, I will. That is my favorite workflow. Someone said I work for Acoustica because I told them how much I love the El Rey. Yeah, I do love the El Rey, and it's like new for me too. It's totally new. There's a lot of really good plugins these days. You know what that means? Not a lot of excuses. All right, let me change up the recording. James just came in for our second act. We're going to record one more episode today. But I'm more than happy to answer questions or to vibe out with y'all until we get started on the second episode. Come in. What's up? What up?
Is the stream going?
Good. I'm just setting up your mic right now.
Nice.
Okay, so what I want to do with your episode is to promote the exclusive stuff. So a chance to show off how cool you are, as well as kind of the content and the style of content we make in the exclusive episode. So the point is like to sell the exclusive episode.
Okay.
So maybe we should do like an episode like things we've learned from the exclusive content, like top 5. There's not like any sort of like list is always super popular, like the top 5 most important lessons from the exclusive content, things of that nature. Y'all, this is James.
What's up? How's it going, y'all? Have you ever gotten like a hate comment before?
I've had a really racist
Really?
Bomber.
A bomber?
Yeah.
What, like he threatened to bomb you, or?
No, like a stream bomber. Sorry, whatever they're called.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, this is Jesus, also named James.
The coming has happened. It's starting here on the MM Pod.
Which is funny because on your guilty pleasure favorite movie is, what is it? This is the end.
Oh, this is the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second coming happens, and all the celebrities don't get raptured because they're celebrities.
Anyway, I already knew he was cool then when I saw him wearing Pink Floyd.
Yeah, that's a good entry. I wear this. When I used to work at the studio, I intentionally wore this a decent amount of times because it's a good conversation starter.
Yeah, if you ever see me, nothing against Pink Floyd, but it's just not what I grew up with. So if you ever see me wearing Pink Floyd, the second coming is happening. Armageddon is ahead. He's coming.
He's making good with God.
Or I'm being like funny. It's so off brand. Our family portrait. Have you seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
I'll show the stream now that I brought it up. I love that portrait because it's so off. It's like a sarcastic family portrait, but it's like really professionally done. I'll bring it.
Yeah, you look like a dad that like never has hugged your kid once. In that picture. Yeah, what are the 5 is? Okay.
Powerful Asian tiger mom in the center. Powerful Asian tiger mom in the center. I'm wearing a suit and I'm not wearing glasses. This is like so off-brand to me that I leave it up as like a sarcastic for guess.
It looks like, have you seen Succession?
Succession?
Yeah. It looks like their family portrait.
So it's so bad. It's so bad.
Was that the intention when you took it? Or did it just come out like that and you kind of rolled with it?
No, like we were trying to be serious. We were trying to be serious because the photographer was like super serious. They're like, make sure you wear suits. This is like a family heirloom thing.
Yeah.
So like we want this to be passed down for generations. And I saw this and I was like, I don't even want to be passed this down to my kids. It'd
be funny.
It's like so yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like this is what we look like. This looks like I have like a proper 401k that's like filled.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Yeah. It looks like that your son's gonna inherit your business. And
This looks like I try to kill myself every weekend because I hate my day job.
This man, there's a lot of things to read. This Jesus? Oh, someone actually said that. You're like a billionaire. Someone asked the 5 best plugins for mixing that you can use at home.
Yeah, you forget. I'm Japanese. Watching too many animes is what we call normal.
That's morning cartoons.
Yeah, dude.
That's just
To me, you watch too much SpongeBob. I don't.
yeah. Or Caillou. Or I guess Bluey. Bluey's a good equivalent.
Okay, hold on. Bluey is so
It's
good.
fire.
It
Yeah.
is so good. Haven't we told you that my wife and I we watch Bluey. We watch Bluey after the kids go to bed. Like we've had
Oh.
stints where we watch Bluey by ourselves, just weeping.
Really?
Just how good the show is.
Man, I need to start doing that with Ash.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Don't blame SpongeBob. Now SpongeBob was good. I grew up with SpongeBob too. Also underrated. I'm rewatching Samurai Jack.
I've never seen that.
Samurai Jack is artistically very cool.
Mhm.
The only problem with it is that it's meant to be like a week to week episode, so it's like there is kind of like this underlying story that goes throughout all the seasons, but
Yeah.
it's like supposed to be like you can watch this episode in the middle of a season and you kind of know what's going on. So it's like
yeah,
the
it's a rerun
same-
kind of show.
yeah, so it's like the same episodes every single week with slightly different scenarios, but it's still like artistically really cool. Samurai Jack is like a total badass.
You know what was surprisingly really good? I just finished it. Have you heard of BoJack Horseman?
I've heard people love that one.
It looks so stupid, and that's why I haven't watched it for so long, because it looked like just a dumb comedy show. But it actually is like it's a very deep and like dealing with addiction and like, but like it like on the surface it looks like just a goofy show, but it was actually like a really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip
Solid
those.
show.
I'm gonna flip those words around. Have you ever seen Quintessential Quintuplets? It's a harem anime, where there's 5 quintuplet sisters and they're all kind of cute and have different personalities, and you have to pick the main character has to pick one at the end. Anyway, I can describe that exact same. How you describe BoJack?
Yeah.
If people think it's weird and it's not interesting, and then
and
you
it's
look
not
at it,
normal.
It's not normal.
It's not
I mean,
normal.
yeah, harem anime with 5 sisters.
I've never Googled Rule 43 with it, or you know what I'm talking about? What's it? 4chan Rule 43? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
38?
Rule 30.
34?
34. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never Googled that.
I think
in my
that
life.
the rule is like if you can think it, there's a
There's
porn
a
that
porn.
exists for it. Or
Yeah.
something like that. Wild. All right, let's get into this
And
episode.
boy, is there. Oh yeah. Okay. Wait. So we're gonna do like just top things that we learned, or from the podcast, or
All right. Yeah, let's do come up with a list. Do you want to use my notebook or use your
yeah. I got my
use
notes.
your as many as you can, and then we can bring it down to 5 or 10.
Cool.
Anime is freaking weird, and that's why I love it. There's been times I don't smoke anymore, but there was times where I would like smoke some weed when I watch anime. And first off, I wouldn't get it, But there's also like every anime has like moments, like even very serious ones, like Jujutsu
Yeah.
Kaisen or something like that, like action pack. There's gonna be like a moment where the characters do something like super off brand for comedic effect. Like they'll they'll react really weird or something to a question
Yeah.
or something, or they'll say something ridiculous, or like all of a sudden he gets a jetpack out of nowhere. Like something ridiculous for comedic effect will happen. And when you're high, that shit fucks you up. You're like, what am I? Is this real life right now? You're like, did he really just react this way? Oh my gosh.
I learned recently that when I'm high, I get better at Call of Duty. I don't know why.
No. When you're high, you feel like you're better at Call of Duty.
No, like numbers. Like the amount of kills I get
the
is like
KDIs,
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, like cause I play with my brother at night and I take like an edible to help me sleep, and sometimes it'll like hit harder. And for some reason, like there are some nights where I'm doing pretty bad, and then it'll hit, and I'm suddenly like getting a lot more kills. And like I think it's because I tense up less when I'm getting attacked, so I can just like go with it. But yeah, I've like been doing a lot better whenever it hits.
Nice. Also, that's one of my favorite animes of all time. I think it's like super underrated. Is I watch My Love Story. It's called My Love Story, in Japanese, Ore Monogatari. Why does this big guy remind me so much of the one guy who's always on the podcast? I assume you mean Lou. Dude, so...
Because we're curvy Mexicans?
that's like kind of funny.
Is that it?
Yeah. What?
Because we're curvy Mexicans? Is that what?
No. In this show, it's one of the few...
Oh, I thought he was talking about me.
No. It's
I didn't come
Lou.
on here to get
It's
berated.
It's Lou. It's one of the few shoujo anime. Shoujo is so shonen, like Shonen Jump. Shonen is Japanese for young men. Shonen, young men. Shoujo is young women. So it's like there's an entire like shonen is like Naruto, One Piece, One Punch Man. That's all like that Jujutsu Kaisen. That's all shonen. But then you got shoujo, which is more like love stories, slice of life type stuff, more marketed to that.
Interesting.
Anyway, Ore Monogatari, or My Love Story, is one of those few shoujo animes where the main character is like a dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of going through it. And I love this story because it's like a really peaceful story, like an anime, like there's no problems.
Oh.
And it's like, it's just so much teen blissfulness.
Yeah.
It's not angst, it's just absolute blissfulness, and they're like fully in
Interesting.
love, and it's really cute. They're like too shy to hold hands. It's just really
Aw.
cute.
Yeah.
It's like really like it kind of brings this like this teenager side of me that like never experienced a peaceful childhood. I'm just like weeping.
You're living vicariously through that.
Yeah.
That could have been me.
and the main character, it's funny because like he's like this big, almost 7 foot tall judo. He's always looks like a gorilla. Like that's his thing. He's
Yeah.
big and dumb, but he's every dude's favorite person because all the dudes love him because they're like look up to him as a man, and they look up to him because he's so kind and always so honest. And then all the girls hate him because they think he looks like a gorilla and he's too big.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the first couple episodes, or in the first few chapters of the manga, he saves a cute little Japanese girl from being like sexually harassed on a train, and she sees him as a hero, and she like totally falls in love with him, and none of her friends get it, and they all make fun of him,
Interesting.
and he becomes like a litmus test for his best friend who's a dude and his girlfriend. He becomes a litmus test, so like everybody
What do you
that's
mean
like
litmus-
makes fun of him,
Oh.
like, oh, they're not a good person.
Yeah.
Because if you actually paid attention to who the main character was, you'd find out that he's probably one of the best people ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she uses him as a litmus test. His best friend uses him as a litmus test to figure out like who's actually a good person.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, it's a really interesting story.
Yeah. I think
It's so cute.
Do I have one
You
more
got-
point? You want me to do 5 or how much?
As many as you can.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of ones that aren't like normal things you hear all the time. So
Yeah.
I think I have a decent list coming together. Let me think of the last one.
I will say, so another thing that I've been thinking about recently is every podcast host has everybody has personal interests. For example, Joe Rogan has the fighting side. He really likes fighting.
Yeah.
He has his comedy side. He has his very curious side. And not as much recently, but formerly very a conspiracy theory based guy. He's like a workout guy as well. Like there's different sides and different interests of Joe Rogan. Hunting dude, a meat guy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what are my personal interests that kind of push the narrative or the story of the podcast? And I'm like, I'm very interested in psychology. I'm like, I haven't used the theology part. I'm trying to care less with theology. Mental health.
Yeah.
Well, psychology and mental health, the same thing.
Yeah.
I got the anime side of me that's like a total weeb type thing.
Yeah, your blades.
Yeah.
Your shaving blade.
Yeah,
for those who don't know,
facial
DK
hair.
is very serious about his razors and how he shaves his face. It's true. You had like a moment where you were like very excited about it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I did. Probably the weirdest part. I'm watching dudes shave for fun on YouTube. That's how you know you've reached a new low in life.
That's how you know you're a dad. You're matching your photo.
Oh, I got the dad
You're
side of
becoming
me.
the photo version of yourself.
The daddy D side of me. I got like the. I think I've got. I'm hoping. Like most people have an issue where they don't feel like they're being taken serious enough. I have an issue where people take me too seriously.
Yeah.
I hope that people see that I have like the very goofy, stupid side of me.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think it shows in the podcast.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah. If you weren't, I have one more. I have this question. If you weren't doing music, what else would you be doing?
Probably some other creative endeavor.
Really?
Well, I'd probably be an entrepreneur within the marketing realm.
Yeah. Cool.
Which I did do that before, but I stepped away to pursue music.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing econ before this. I really liked
Really?
it. Yeah, I loved it.
Actually, I really liked econ too, but I don't know if I'd pursue that as a career. I have a feeling that. Actually, I don't know. I think it could have been entrepreneurship, just in general.
Yeah, because you
as much as I think it could have been like art.
Yeah.
I think it would have been I find a lot of like the creative parts of me to be fulfilled with entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I could see it. I could see you doing something that's like
building businesses has always been my
but
thing.
that's very art around it.
Yeah. I think marketing or like PR within is like that's the creative side, especially if I'm like being an entrepreneur. Like if you're not creative, it takes a lot of creativity to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
To solve problems and find like abstract problems and to find solutions for them. Yeah, I found a lot. Yeah, just building. That's the one thing that I don't get out of the music industry that I miss out of building my own companies, which is the scaling.
Mm-hmm.
Scaling is so slow in the music industry. I miss that.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can you can have a company and hire people and take on bigger clients, and you could scale a company at first really fast, and it's like really feels really good. If you take on investors, there's a whole other different thing. There's something about scalability. Like depending on the product that you have, like you can service millions of people in a single day if you have the bandwidth. Like the bandwidth that you have is self-determined. Where like for us, it's like 1 or 2 songs a day.
Yeah. Like the most I've heard of scaling wise is like Jason Joshua, how he has people do like the 80% so he could finish off.
Yeah.
There's something that's like the most I think you could scale mixing.
Yeah, that's another side of me is like the heavily entrepreneur side of the podcast. Anyway, have you watched One Piece? I don't watch One Piece. I read One Piece, but I have not read One Piece in almost a decade. I really, really, really love One Piece, and I've reread it to catch up to where it's currently at least 3 times to only be fucking blue-balled every single time. So I am purposefully avoiding all One Piece until it is done.
Really?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Because I truly enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do not like waiting week to week. I think One Piece is such a good story. And I read it. There's more details and there's more to the story, as well as it's a lot faster to get through it if you read it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Don't tell me. This is a decision that I made almost a decade ago. This is a decision. I know that I'm missing out on so many good things.
Adria, let's drop the biggest spoiler you can right now.
No, don't do that. I swear on my life, if you do that, I will be upset.
I'm kidding. We'll ban you.
Everybody's dropped. I didn't want to know what like the Gear 2 or the Gear 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think this is just a decision that I made.
Yeah.
I love One Piece so much that I want to consume it in a single cohesive run.
He's setting a boundary and you should respect it. RDLS.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what it is. I love One Piece. It's good. It's like there's a reason why it's the number one longest running best, just subjectively or objectively best performing anime ever.
Yeah. I literally saw on this, it was one of those silly Jubilee YouTube dating videos, but this guy literally turned down a girl because she didn't know what One Piece was. He was like, when I say One Piece, what comes to mind? And she was like, swimsuit. And he's like, ooh. And then when they got to choose their person, he like chose not to date her because she didn't. His reasoning was that she did not know what One Piece was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's like far-reaching line of logic. Okay, you got 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about them. All right, we are recording, so we will not be ignoring the chat, but we will respond less to the chat unless it is pertinent and important to the conversation that we are having. Okay, here it is. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I'm your host DK, and with me today is special guest and host of the exclusive subscriber-only episodes of the Mixing Music Podcast, James from James Dean Mastering.
How's it going, everyone? I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that everyone thinks I look like Jesus today, and I'll take that.
Wow, you do look like you are. Anyway, this is this could be a sign. Anyway, we'd like to welcome Jesus to this episode of the this is a fun one. So Lou is unable to come today, so we want to I'm going to be totally straight-faced. We want more subscribers to the exclusive episodes because I think they're fun. James is the main host, and I'm kind of more of the co-host of the exclusive subscriber-only episodes of the podcast. For $4 a month or $40 a year, you can get two extra episodes every single week. So if you are paying attention to the exclusive archives that we release once a week, those are all from over a year or two ago. And the cool thing with that is you'll never catch up. Like if you do the one episode a week, it's cool, it's free. But if you subscribe, you get twice as many episodes and all of the other exclusive episodes, even the ones that are slightly too offensive, where I'm very mad or something. I'm very triggered, and I don't release them because they would piss people off. And I'm glad they're behind a private paywall. Now, if you want to discover my real thoughts on abortion, no, I'm just kidding.
You can find out DK's favorite races on that podcast.
yeah, you get to find out who my least favorite race is.
Mine is the F-140. That is a terrible race.
No. But we have a good time where, we kick each other in the balls, metaphorically. It's fun. It's fun. And they're all exclusive. All the exclusive episodes are very technical. So me and Lou, we like talking about the technicals, but we're kind of beyond that. And I don't think that that's what's important to building a career. So, but everybody, the numbers always want. The vast majority still thinks that a specific EQ curve or how to use an EQ is going to help. And I think that does help at first. But
yeah.
But I do think that so if you want more of the technical stuff, you just got to go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive. And today's episode, not only are we trying to openly tell you to your face that we want to convert you into an exclusive subscriber.
Yeah.
But what is today's episode about?
So today we're going to talk about the top things that we've actually learned from the podcast. One more thing before I forget too, with the member exclusive episodes, is there are some things that we can't talk about, whether it's projects we're working on or things like that, on the open internet that could sometimes be talked about behind the paywall. So last week we gave a really good episode where DK kind of broke down the whole process from start to end of communicating with a new client, like a big client, and how that kind of went down. So yeah, you get some really good things like that, and we're gonna start doing some mixed breakdowns on the podcast too. So that's gonna be.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we were gonna do that.
Yeah, and so that you get more specific technical tips as well. Yeah,
and if it's behind a paywall, I don't mind talking shit openly about a mix.
It'll likely be mine sometimes too, and I'm okay with that.
And one of the things I know, my mantras is I do believe in timing. And I do believe in kindness, but I don't ever believe in lying. I don't think lying is a good it doesn't help anybody in the long term. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to suffer through the pains and the discomfort of telling the honest truth now for long-term gains. And if you're the type of person who doesn't like honest feedback and take everything personally, then we are not likely to be friends. I don't want to be friends with you. You don't want to be friends with me. It's mutual. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Leave the studio.
there's a list of 5 things.
Yeah, we'll each give 5 things. I tried to keep mine unique, different from the general overall lessons that people talk about in mixing. I'll just
So
start
unique
off.
and specific.
Yeah, unique and specific. That like specifically for me doing these conversations, and we'll sometimes react to clips and things like that. It's the main things that I've taken away that has changed my mixing. The first one for me is actually with compressors and limiters, learning your attack and release and how each of those sound. That's something that I noticed has come up a lot, especially on like last week's episode. We talked about how like listening for the release on the limiter can affect the kind of groove,
Which I did
of the
this week.
sound. Yeah, I was doing that. Yeah, and it makes a
it's
big
interesting.
difference. But
Yeah, so this is really, really important with the compressor. So there was someone on Discord, was it? On Facebook? I don't remember. But one of my friends asked, okay, if there's a static snare, like it's a snare sample, so it's the same exact dynamics on each snare hit through the entire song, you don't need to compress it, right? That was the question. Like, do you need to compress it if it's the same? So with compression, there's more than just dynamic processing that's important. So for example, with attack and release, there's also a sense of like transient designing, construction or deconstruction of a transient, emphasizing a transient. Something super fast like an 1176 won't build as much or create as much of a pop of a transient of a snare as much as like something slower. And then the release is the sustain. So for example, if you want more of that snare rattle or the room sound, the reverb of the snare, with less transient, so it's like a more sustained, like instead of a pop, you get a pa, pa.
yeah,
You can do a fast attack and a fast release. The faster the release, the more ambience you get, the more background noise you get, and the faster attack, the less of that initial pop is going to come through, so it's going to squish the entire thing. So
Yeah.
there's also so beyond dealing with the practical dynamic control, there's also transient emphasis or de-emphasis, and then there's also with the release you can, and that's with the attack. With the release you can control the ambience and the sustain
Yeah.
of different percussive materials or anything or even non-percussive materials. So
yeah. Especially if it's like a kick sample that has if it doesn't go with a song that we're like ooh after the initial transient, like usually the release you kind of tame that and make it so it matches the vibe of the song a lot better.
There you go. This is also true with even like a bass or kick drum or something like that. If you have a slower release, if you have a drum kit and you have a snare with a lot of hi-hat bleed and you don't have a lot of ghost notes, so it's just single hits, you can do a very slow release and the bleed will be less, so you'll hear less hi-hat. Or if you do a super fast release, you'll hear that the hi-hat will get louder the more you compress. So these are things that you that are practical, even if it is a static single source, single sample snare drum or whatever instrument it is, or some sort of loop. And then the last thing, which is not as important, but something to consider, is the harmonic distortion or the harmonic saturation that is happening. The clipping that can happen. So some compressors you can actually clip, which is really interesting, and the flavors that you can get from that. Although that's not, I don't know if I think transient control and sustain is the most obvious ones. I don't know, because there's a lot of times where I just pick a clipper instead of if that's the case, I'd use like a saturation tool or a clipper.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, the last one I don't know. For some reason it feels like it deserves its own category, like it's not the same.
Yeah, it's kind of different thing. Although especially on like the master bus, your release can affect the distortion when it's like pushing down, like when it's limiting.
Yeah, on some compressors, the fast attack, fast release just doesn't work for some whatever scientific reason that I don't know.
Yeah,
and adds more distortion. for some reason. Like in 1176, high ratio with the fastest attack and fastest release at a high gain reduction will cause crunchy distortion.
Yeah.
Slow down that release, all of a sudden that crunchy distortion is gone. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah. So yeah, that's my number one. Is like how much the attack and release actually can affect, and how important it is to just listen to it and what it's doing, to not just the transients, but to the groove, to like what DK was saying, the initial sound of the drums, or the sound, how if it's on the master bus, how when the drum hits, it affects everything else in the song too, and things like that. But yeah, that's my number one.
That's awesome. Okay, then what is number two?
Number two, okay, I'm trying to find the best way to word this. It's learning your equipment, like learning how an EQ works versus just learning how to EQ vocals or how to EQ drums.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is there like an episode that we talked about that kind of explained this a little bit better?
So we talked about it more vaguely, but there's one episode where we specifically got into that. It was one about I think someone was talking about EQing a bass or something like that. But it's just like, yeah, it's like just the concept that if you're EQing, the best way to EQ vocals, the best way to EQ drums isn't to learn how to EQ vocals or how to EQ drums. It's learning how an EQ affects a sound, and how different EQs that you use, different EQ plugins, will affect the soundscape of like a track, and how you could use that knowledge to get the vocal sound you want.
Yeah, okay. So I would even expound into something like the idea that EQ is meant to be a musical tool, not like it can be used surgically, it can be used from a very logical perspective, but I think we should more err or side on more towards the other way, the other direction, which is keep it musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you could tighten up a kick drum, but you can kill all. I mean, we know from vocals or any sort of instrument with psychoacoustics, the resonances and the harmonics that sound creates is what helps us figure out in our mind who's talking, if it's a male or a female, or if it's James or DK, the type of guitar it is, whether it's got like different woods, create different resonances, different vocal boxes. So if you cut all the resonant frequencies, like really surgically and without thought, it makes every single source, no matter what you use, really hollow and soulless.
Yeah.
Very soulless. It can totally kill the vibe of that single track or instrument we're recording. And I think that's the point that we're trying to get to, right?
Yeah, and like an interesting thing that we do too, because let's say you're learning drums or you're learning guitar. When you first start out, you're just learning guitar. You're not starting guitar by like, okay, I'm starting off by learning how to play metal guitar, right? You're just learning the basics, and then you could eventually expand and know how to play guitar in different genres. Whereas as Audica than music, we usually learn EQ or compression, like, okay, this is how you EQ a vocal, this is how you EQ a drum. And later on, you start to learn how just EQ works as a concept.
Yeah, like why that was the right move.
Yeah.
Like the concept of like what muddiness is.
Yeah.
Because we did an episode on the exclusive episodes about the opposites. For example, the opposite of muddy is like powerful or full. Right? It's the same exact frequency, but if used correctly, it's a totally different adjective.
Yeah.
The opposite of boxy is like full-chested, or maybe that powerful full.
Yeah, and like sometimes muddy is good, sometimes muddy isn't.
Yeah,
like there's the
or like with low end, instead of saying boomy, like boomy is too much or uncontrolled low end, but if it's a good amount of low end, then it's like
tight.
Fat or tight. Yeah. It's like, so it's like there's different. Every frequency, you need to figure out, each one has a purpose, and you need to figure out how to use it, not just because eventually it has to turn into, not because somebody told you.
Yeah.
You have to understand why.
Yeah. If you understand your tool, if you understand your compressor, you're going to know what like needs to be addressed. Like, okay, my song sounds like this. What is it? Oh, it's because I know how a compressor could fix this track and open up the rest of the tracks or something like that. Yeah. So it's just, I guess my number two is just like, learning the concept of your plugins versus how to do the plugin just for a certain type of track.
There's a lot of nuance in that too, because I mean, even the idea of like genre cultures, which we talk a lot about.
Yeah.
Like you don't EQ a vocal like Michael Jackson across the board in every single genre.
Yeah.
You don't EQ a vocal like like Chris Brown across the board in every single genre. It doesn't make sense. Even across in the same genre,
Yeah.
that there's a different vibe for different sounds. And if you think that a vocal just has, you're supposed to cut out 500 hertz and you're supposed to boost 12K and above, and you're supposed to high pass everything, like you don't understand the concept of music.
Yeah.
Because music is supposed to be fluid and changing for every single song. And the more than EQ is, if you know how to EQ, but you have a really good, with a really good understanding of music and emotions through sounds, you'll be unstoppable more than just having all the presets.
Yeah, and it's just helpful. It's good. So yeah, learn your get to understand the concept of your stuff.
You did bring up though that like it is important and a vital part of the beginner process that sometimes like you do need to go through presets. And I think that if you're able to be as open-minded, I think it's very difficult, like, because you have no idea what you're doing at the very beginning.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But eventually, if you can get to the point where you have the mental capacity to think about why that preset was created,
Yeah.
like, this is the fat snare drum preset. Okay, what frequencies are boosted and why?
What is fat? When we
What
say
is fat?
snare
Like,
drum.
use it to kind of figure out definitions and feels.
Yeah.
And then adjust to taste according to what you think.
Yeah.
So I think there are some purposes to it, but in the long-term
Yeah.
professional realm, nobody's using presets other than to get to a point faster.
Yeah, especially like when you get the better recordings you get, especially in the mixing realm, they're probably already recorded in a way that you won't need to use those classic EQ curves. The adjustments that you'll need to make are so minor that you do have to understand the frequency spectrum to know what needs to be done. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Oh, the next one. We always talk about keep it simple. But this is kind of adjustment I've been making more recently too, is keeping it simple on the master bus.
Ah, yes, we did. That episode was specifically about the perspective of bouncing stems and alternatives.
Yeah.
So the dangers of over mixing the master bus or mix bus. Yeah, there's a few different things we talked about, but I assume the first thing that came to my mind is from a practical perspective. If you're bouncing a shit ton of stems and alternatives, doing too much mix bus processing can not only be heavy on the PC, but if you can get away with just a limiter, the bouncing the stems, like the actual practical process of bouncing stems, is just going to be a lot more simpler.
Yeah.
I don't remember the other thoughts too. Like, yeah, if you have like a mix bus compressor, it can totally change the vibe and kill everything that you've done before up to that point.
Yeah.
We probably talked about that on that episode.
Or like big EQ moves on the mix bus and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah, big EQ moves is a strange one.
Because then you like print your stems and it just has a completely different, sound to it.
Yeah, and I think on that episode we talked about like linear phase EQ and how stupid that is just in general.
Yeah.
Linear phase EQ is not better. In fact, it is actually worse. You should avoid using, I don't know why, but on TikTok, there was a huge trend where people are like, on Pro Q3, if you switch, you should default to using linear phase because linear phase is better. No, fuck no. It's not better. It's actually worse.
If you read the manual, they highly advise against using it. They say you have to very specifically know what you're using linear phase for, otherwise it will make weird noises.
Yeah. So it's very specific and is not important 99% of the time. I do know a lot of mix engineers that are very heavy on the mix bus.
Yeah.
Bob Horn is very heavy on the mix bus, and I've gone in different. Right now, I'm very minimalist on the mix bus.
Yeah.
But the point is, you do it on purpose and not because like. You're processing on a mix bus. It should be fairly like yin and yang, somewhere balanced, right? Like if you're over relying on the mix bus, that's kind of dangerous. If you're under relying on no, I don't think it's possible to under rely on a mix bus.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think it's bad to not rely on a mix bus. I do think it's bad to over rely on the mix bus.
Yeah, that's a way to put it. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, like for me at this current phase I'm in my mixing, the mix bus has become more of just getting that last bit of loudness with like the limiters and a clipper and stuff like that. But yeah, that could change down the line. But it comes down to not just doing a bunch, or I guess not hoping that the mix bus will fix your mix or make it sound better.
Yeah, and I wonder what context we were talking about on that episode, because there's a lot of nuance behind this too. Because in some ways, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
In some ways, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
I think another thing in concept too is like I think people overuse compression on Mixbus. I think most songs, and especially within hip hop, should not use any compression.
Really?
Yeah. I think compression can kill a hip hop song very easily. Because dude, if it's like an 808 and it triggers the compressor really hard and it just ducks the vocal, it ducks the entire song. It's very easy to overcompress and it kills the impact. Better to use clippers and limiters and, dare I say, not make it as loud as you think it needs to be. And then or thoughtful, tasteful side chaining, which is not part of the genre, but if you can keep it hidden so it doesn't sound side chained, but you get the headroom effects of side chain. Those are, I think, mixed bus compression, I think is probably one of the most overused techniques among beginners and intermediates. Yeah, for sure.
Although I will say, even though this completely contradicts the bullet point, in the genre, like, what's his name, Post Malone's new album, it's like almost an intentional high mixed bus compression. Like every time the kick hits, you could hear the whole track pump. But that sounds. I don't think most people
are. I don't think most people are doing it that intentionally.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's very obvious when things are done intentionally. It's very obvious when things are not, and I would err on the side of it's not done intentionally in most cases.
Yeah.
So be careful with that. I know a lot of engineers that swear by mixing into a limiter.
Yeah, I've heard of. Yeah,
and I know a lot of people that. I think conceptually the concept is if you have to put a limiter at the end of the song, to send to a client, which it'd be dumb to not do. You do not want to send demos or rough drafts, rough mixes without a limiter on.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is just the most immediately recognizable. Oh, it's better because it's louder. Kind of thing.
It's unfortunate, just psychology there, how the human mind works and interprets things sounding better. Honestly, I think it makes kind of sense because if you mix into a limiter, then you would hear how the transient shaping and compression reacts into the limiter.
Yeah.
So like you don't have to squash you don't have to compensate by over mixing or like overemphasizing transients knowing that you're going to squish them later.
Yeah.
Right? With a limiter. Because if you had a limiter from the beginning, you can hear how it squishes it and then you can change the transients. So like it can make sense. I know some people that swear by it.
Yeah.
I think more importantly, this is a workflow issue that people should just choose one or the other. I know Grammy-winning engineers that swear against it completely.
Yeah.
And I know Grammy-winning engineers that swear by it.
Yeah.
Which means it's not that important of a decision. It's got different practical workflow experience.
Yeah. And I feel like this bullet point is something that over time, both of our opinions will just flip-flop back and forth on, like, how the master bus will be used. Just like you said, there's Grammy people who swear by it and Grammy people that swear against it. It's just...
Yeah, and my main mentor, Leslie Brathwaite, is on the side of doing less and not doing anything on the mix bus.
Yeah.
Like, surprisingly so.
Yeah.
So that's just my team. I always love simplifying the process instead of over complicating. Like, I think complicating a process, if it's not practical, I think serves no purpose at all. And it's, if anything, it feels kind of gatekeepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not empowering to find out that in order to get to a practical solution, it has to be really complicated. And that's just how it is. Like that's not empowering in any case. Most of the time people overcomplicate because that's part of their workflow and they've never learned otherwise, not because it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, my next point, and I guess it's a more simple one, but I think it's an important one. If it sounds good, it sounds good. Like, don't worry about what got the vocal or the drums to sounding how they do. But if at the end it sounds good and it goes with the song, then just stick with it.
Is there any examples that you can use? What sounds good, whether in a professional or in a personal context?
I'd say, and I guess this is my evolution, like me evolving as a mixer, is it used to be like I would feel like I would have to at least have an EQ on a vocal or at least have a compressor on there. But I realized the more that I've like laid back, or I've recently done a mix where I don't even think I had to use any compression because it was so well recorded on the vocal. and it was like almost combating that feeling of, oh, but I need to like get that forward sounding thing.
Okay. Yeah. This is something that we talk about quite often, is the concept that I think knowing when not to do something is a significantly more valuable tool that I'm willing to pay, and labels are obviously willing to pay a lot more for.
Yeah.
Like that is so much more valuable from not just a skill level, but from a financial perspective. Labels don't, if you are getting paid $3,000 a song, surprisingly, it's counterintuitive, they don't want you to touch the song that much.
Yeah.
There's a lot more egos involved. They just want you to do something. They want you to clean it up. They don't want to know what you did. They just want it to be like approved.
Yeah.
And this is why the greatest mix engineer Serban Ghenea, this is sometimes we talk about this example, but he does surprisingly little to a mix. Partially because the files that he get are already well polished, and if the label has the budget to hire Serban, they don't need much to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? And also, it's just, I really do think that at the art of mixing, knowing when not to do something is significant, like exponentially more valuable than knowing what to, like thinking you know what to do.
I will say though, the flip side of that too is, and this is when I first came out here, something I learned from watching you mix, I was in that phase of being scared to do big EQ moves. Is okay that sometimes you need to do some pretty big EQ moves to like tame a vocal, or like do some pretty intense dynamic EQ moves to like get a vocal to sit there too. So again, if it sounds good,
it sounds
good. Yeah.
I will notice that in my own personal career, the lower, like independent artists, less experienced artists, they want me to do more heavy lifting.
Yes, for sure.
And there are a few engineers out there that are known to be heavy lifters. Like Jason Joshua is always in the camp of fuck your rough mix. He's like, fuck your rough mix. I'm not here to make your demo sound better. I'm here to make hits.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of his mentality. From a practical perspective, in the professional realm, most engineers are not like that. And in fact, by A&R and labels, those types of engineers are looked down on at higher levels.
Yeah.
This is just, they want something to sound expensive, but they don't want you to, because if you change too much and one person, because there's teams like on like very heavy projects, if you got like 4 different A&Rs involved, some sort, like a bunch of managers involved, the artist and the 3 different producers on this track, along with the mixing and the mastering engineer and the recording engineer, it takes one person not liking the changes that you make to all of a sudden put a wrench in the entire fucking thing, and then all of the A&R are in total agreement that it's just not worth hiring you. Yeah. Like, and you lose money and you lose work. Is at that level, your job is to just put out a good product that makes that causes the least amount of trouble. Yeah. Like if a label or an A&R or manager could, they would use AI that would never talk back, that can do the same thing and just produce consistent results every single time. Because the problem that they're trying to solve is not a creative one. It's a practical one. They want a mix to sound expensive, to sound consistent, or whatever issues that they've talked about in the conversations done before. Yeah. They don't want an egoist mixer that all of a sudden says, I think this snare sounds better and I'm right. Yeah.
And you could hurt someone on the team's ego when you're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the beginning phase, it's like for a beginner to intermediate mixer where, charging a couple $100 per song, working mostly with local artists. Yeah. I think that it's important and it's good to be able to provide that as a service to be able to do more. Yeah. Like if this is a pretty normal scenario, dad wants to pay for their 17-year-old kid's first single or album or whatever. Yeah. So dad is funding the project. The kid sucks, honestly. and they just want their issue is not like for an A&R label management, the solution is they just need to go through this mixing process. For a father and a son, the solution is to make the son look good. Yeah. And that means lifting as much weight as possible. Yeah. For the label, it's politics. Like you don't want to do as much because you don't want anybody disagreeing with it because that would just throw a wrench in the entire thing. So it's the politics are different. So with a father-son scenario, if you know how to melodyne the shit out of a vocal, if you know how to make a shitty snare sound fantastic and do the heavy lifting, fuck your rough mix, I'm here to make hits. If you know how to do that, that is so valuable.
Yeah.
And it can make you money, and it does work really well. But as you scale and as you grow your career, I'm noticing that those people don't survive, and there's a lot of balancing and dissonance that you have to deal with as you scale, because eventually hopefully, if this is a good and normal problem to have, hopefully you get to the point where you're like, I feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm charging way too much. Like that is a very normal and great dissonance to feel if you're scaling properly.
But then at that point, it is just you have such a good ear that you know what to do for those very minute things that will carry the song a little bit higher.
That's true. The confidence gained through experience should make you not feel as much dissonance.
Yeah, because that little bit of stuff that Serpenginea does, I bet we could not, at least me, at this point where I am at mixing, I probably would not be able to recognize those changes that needed to be made.
That's true. Yeah,
he's probably got such a trained ear that he knows.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I've had the experience of listening to a before and after, where a producer or even a mixer, one of them was a mixer, and the label had the budget to finish the mix with Servant specifically.
Yeah,
and in both instances, hearing the before and afterwards, it is surprisingly not different. It was very surprising how little changed. It was to the point where even I, a trained ear, is like, yeah, I think the kick drum is tighter.
Yeah.
I think the snare fits a little bit better. I think the vocals are a little bit more consistent throughout.
Yeah.
It sounds like he did a little bit of vocal automation, but it's so subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just something to consider. There's different styles, but one is heavily favored in the upper echelons than the other.
Yeah. So yeah, trust your ear. Don't be scared. So yeah, again, if it sounds good, it sounds good. Just trust that. Yeah. Whether it means doing a lot or doing a little, if it sounds right. My last point is studying monitors. This was actually a huge difference for me. Yeah. We had an episode a while back about how to recognize what good low end sounds like. And I've even brought up, it's something that came up when you were giving me feedback on my mixes. It was consistently the low end was not that good. And so my initial response is that I just have Kali LP6s. I don't have the best setup. And that was just kind of an excuse, I guess, in a way. But after that conversation, I made a playlist because you told me that Bob Horn and Manny Mariquin have really good low end. So I made a playlist of a bunch of their mixes. And while I would work and stuff, I would just leave it playing on the monitors. And then I would take some time when not working to study how that low end sounds on my monitors and to get an idea of what quote unquote good low end sounds like on my monitors. And because I took that extra time to study my monitors, I remember that after that I did a mix and they specifically mentioned that the low end sounded really good in it. So it was just a matter of taking the time to study your monitors and to understand what different things like good low end sounds like, what good vocals sound like on those monitors and how they translate to everything else will pay off. So it's just a thing that even if you can't afford the super, super nice monitors, you can still get great mixes by understanding how things will translate.
So yeah, the main thing when it comes to referencing, people talk about car reference, headphone reference, just whatever it is, AirPod, computer, tablet, phone. One of the things that we always emphasize is the importance of learning your setup. And that means in your listening position, if you mix on headphones, you should be listening to music casually on those headphones. Or if you have a specific, even the LP6s or whatever, you should be listening to music casually in your mix position as much as possible. That is part of your homework. And I would say that most of the referencing should be done before you even open up a DAW.
Yeah.
It should just be listening to Spotify or Apple or whatever you use on your computer, just listening to music and analyzing how much low end is too much or too little.
Yeah.
Analyzing how the vocals sit in each song, and then being able to, through a larger sample size, figure out how a vocal should sit in general on your speakers. You should be able to, it shouldn't be a guess. And so if you feel like you are ever guessing how much kick drum or vocal or snare you should be putting, it shouldn't be a guess.
Yeah, you should reference.
Yeah, and that is a work of referencing on your mix, referencing your mix position with your mix playback system.
Oh yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, something I've been doing a lot more lately is because I have another job I do remotely. It's 2 hours in the morning, and during that time, I will listen to music in the genre of what I'm mixing in. So like last week I had a guy and he's like in the genre of kind of Juice WRLD, Post Malone, and so I was listening to just that genre for those 2 hours of doing my other job, so that by the time I'm ready to mix the song, I have a very general idea of what it sounds like. So my initial, when you first hear the rough, I have an idea. Okay, I know what needs to be adjusted to make it fit into the genre.
I actually really love that. In fact, I would say that that's almost ideal. 2 hours is a little bit long.
Yeah.
But that's like almost ideal.
Yeah. It's just 2 hours because I'm working. I would do 30 minutes if I don't have work in the morning.
I will say that I listen to at least 20 minutes to an hour of music casually every day before I start mixing.
Yeah.
Playing on Spotify, different songs that I like, or new songs that are coming out, different genres. I don't.
Yeah.
Mostly so I can study while I'm answering emails, creating my to-do list, organizing my workload for the day.
Yeah.
I'm usually juggling between so many different projects that if I need to have some sort of like task manager and to-do list in order to do that.
Yeah.
And while I'm answering emails, doing all that boring stuff, office stuff, I'm listening to music in my mix position here, as in the same position that I would actually mix a song in.
And I'll say, especially when you upgrade your monitors, because I bought those monitors off of you that I upgraded.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of overwhelming how when you upgrade monitors, because I went from the LP6s to like a 3-way monitor, you have to adjust to how much more information you're getting. Because I realized at first I was instinctively, because with my other monitors, I learned, okay, if I hear this much coming from this frequency area, I need to do something to take care of it. So now I'm having to retrain myself. Okay, it's okay that I'm hearing that much from here because I'm just getting a lot more information out of the monitors.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're always, especially when you upgrade monitors or change your monitors, get to know how they sound and how songs sound on it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode that we could talk about, is like the differences in 2-way versus 3-way monitors.
Yeah.
And crossovers and how that can affect perception of music and audio and the benefits of both. I went from having a 2-way monitor system to getting ATCs, which is 3-way, getting into PMCs, which is another 3-way, and then coming back down to a 2-way system.
Oh.
And so it does sound different, and there's a little bit of that 3-way that I miss that I want to have a 3-way system for my second pair.
Yeah.
I want to go back to those ATCs that I love so much. And briefly, without making an entire episode about this, the crossover, so in order for the tweeter and the woofer to work together, there's a crossover in the speaker. So like the power is allocated to 20 hertz to 1,000 hertz, 1,500 hertz, and the tweeter takes care of 1,500, 2,000 hertz and above.
Yeah.
So it's like it splits up the frequencies. The problem with the 2-way system, or the argued problem with the 2-way system, is that it splits it right in the middle where the vocals are. So there's a crossover in where the vocals are, or like the mid-range, which we all kind of understand that the magic is in the mid-range. The most important part of a mix is the mid-range.
Yeah.
Where like a 3-way system, the point of that is that you have a dedicated mid-range driver, which changes the crossover to be in the low mids and the upper mid-range, rather than directly in the mid-range. So that way you have a clear, non-crossed over, clear mid-range for vocals or whatever's in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you have the top end. But then you can argue, why don't we have more crossovers? And we have an upper frequency. It's the problem is, the more crossover you have, you also introduce a lot more problems, including phase and timing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do want a 3-way playback device eventually.
Yeah.
But I really, really like my monitors.
And I love these monitors too.
So much. So that's just something that is interesting, something you need to consider. And to be fair, I do think a monitoring or playback system, number one is ways to spend money. Number one is always going to be acoustic treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is aesthetics. I hate to say that, is like aesthetics.
It's unfortunate, but people care about the aesthetics.
Yeah, and I also, not just other people, but myself. Like, I want to create a space where I'm focused.
Mm-hmm.
I want to declutter. And the last episode was entirely dedicated to that before you came over, when I did another solo recording. The third thing, like the most important piece of equipment to invest in after those two things are taken care of, I would say, is monitors. If I'm a snob about anything, I am a snob about studio monitors, audio monitors. Like I'm pretty, and not from a preference perspective, but like an objective performance perspective. Like for example, I can always change EQ frequencies and add more mid-range or add more low end with Sound ID or some sort of external DSP.
Yeah.
But I can't change the distortion of a speaker, which mostly is shown through like transient response.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing with the speakers that I have now are very much emphasized on transient response. I don't think even you, has worked on my speakers for a short amount of time,
Yeah.
like when you compress or clip or limit anything on these speakers, it is so fucking obvious.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I've like done like a little bit of mixing stuff on like that one project you were showing me, and it was like almost overwhelming how
There's like
how much more transient information there was.
That's another thing too, is like when I upgraded from like $600 monitors to my first ATCs, which were $12,000 monitors,
Yeah.
it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot more information coming at me, and it took a couple months for me to figure out what to do with that information. It
Yeah.
was super overwhelming. That's a word that I would
That's how I'm
describe.
feeling right now too. Everything feels like there's too much of it, but I'm having to train myself.
Yeah,
It's
you
just-
start
I'm just getting
overcutting.
more information.
Yeah, I did that with the ATCs too. Like I was overcompensating, cutting too much in the mid-range because it made everything feel so raw.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother conversation itself. But yeah, if I'm a snob about anything speakers, and if you are really big into speakers, then you know the importance of just spending hours in your listening position, getting used to them with various different genres, different styles, different composers, producers, and figuring out how your speakers are reacting, even within your room.
Yeah.
I just added a sub to my room.
Really?
It's over here.
You'll have
Yeah,
to show me that after.
I'll have to
'cause
show
I
you that,
haven't
and I've
heard
got it all phased aligned and everything,
Oh,
and
snap.
music sounds totally different. So now I have to do some training.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. It's actually it's very nice. I've
cool.
worked with I had a sub system with my ATCs, but I'm hopefully eventually trying to upgrade to a dual sub system, which is a whole nother thing with a completely variable phase alignment. So it's not just 180 or 0. There's you can change it 7 degrees if you want to.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, that's another thing that we can talk about
Yeah.
later. But
I will say a takeaway practical thing, because we tend to do that a lot on the show too.
yeah,
That people could do with this specific bullet point that helped me a lot is you can find playlists on Spotify that people make of like all of Manny Marroquin's mixes or all of Servant Ganea's mixes, just someone that people, everyone says they're a really good mixer, just so that you know that they're good mixes. And it could be a song you like, and take the same song and you can listen to it on repeat at different levels, different sound levels, and take note of, okay, what vanishes, what stays. When I turn down the monitors, what am I hearing? Am I just hearing the vocals and the kick? How much am I hearing it? Okay, when I start to turn it up, okay, what does the low end sound like now when I turn it up there? Okay, what happens when I play it super loud? And that is something that helped me, is taking note of how things sound at different volume, and what vanishes, what comes back. And kind of that helped me kind of better get to know my monitors.
yeah. To be fair to the branding and with mix engineers is really interesting because you do a song, it comes out months or years later.
Yeah.
They get recognition. You grow up listening to it. By the time you grew up listening to it as a child, by the time you become an adult and you recognize who did it because you're trying to be an engineer, they're already like 20, 30 years past their game. So the people that are popular right now, like CLA or Andrew Sheps, like they were in the game decades ago.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a lag there. And it's also one thing that this is fairly controversial, but I want to talk about the importance of having your own tastes and having enough reference and having a big enough sample size to come up with your own taste. Like for me, you don't have to agree with me, because the point is not whether or not you agree with me. The point is I have enough experience to come to my own conclusions. One, I think there is a group of overrated mix engineers. I think Jason Joshua is overrated. I think 40
Oh,
is
you're
one
dropping names.
Yeah, I think 40 is one of the worst mixers of all times. Granted, he's a producer.
Yeah.
But sometimes he mixes Drake stuff, and I think he's like one of the worst of all times. It's horrendous. I think Mixed by Ali, I don't know recently, but through most of it, the records that he worked on were super influential, super important, which creates a different demand for what's good. But I think Mixed by Ali is very overrated. I think very underrated mixer. I think CLA is fucking overrated. And I think people that are still pertinent, and I am biased, I think Leslie is still properly rated. And I think actually he's underrated because he's like in the top 50, but I think he should be higher. I think that Leslie is really underrated. he knows what not to do, like a god. I've never met another mix engineer at his level that like is so in tuned emotionally to knowing what not to do.
Yeah.
I think Tony Maserati is properly rated. I think Manny Marroquin is properly rated. I do think Serban is properly rated. I think Serban's assistant is way underrated. He works with a dude named Jonathan something else that does a lot of his mixing.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's underrated. I don't know why we talk about Serban but not him. I think that Jesse Ray Ernster is incredibly underrated or properly
super
rated.
good. Yeah.
I think Austin Seltzer, who's another local guy, I think he's very underrated as well. These are both, Jesse and Austin are both newer names that are working with label type stuff that aren't legends because they're working right now, and I think they're really killing it. Because, like, Manny's an untouchable. Like, he's going to, no matter what, like, there's nothing you can do to, like, say that Manny's not good. Even if his assistants release his mixes, people are just so biased that's like, oh, that's a good mix.
Yeah.
Like, but I think Manny actually produces good results always.
Yeah.
So there's, like, the important part is not what I think.
Yeah.
The important part is not CLA or, like, Jason Joshua is overrated. It's not that. The point is, I've spent enough time to be able to come to my own conclusion, and I think that everybody, even if your list is completely contradicting to mine, I think you should have the confidence and I think you should have the confidence to come up with your own list, and I think you should have enough experience to be able to explain your reasoning. That's the important part, not about whether or not my list is right. Like, I think any sort of list of what movies or what artists or what rappers or what singers are the best or the greatest, I think is stupid. The important skill is to determine what you like, because that will directly determine how you mix and what kind of clients you work with.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's a detriment if you are unable to properly and explicitly articulate what you do and don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Cool.
Okay, sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, but
No, it's all good. Preach. Yeah. But yeah, those are my 5 points.
Cool. I think that's a great 5 points.
Tune in to subscribe to the Mixing Music Podcast exclusives. There's a lot. We've had our format of, like, you know, reacting to clips and, like, giving very specific feedback. But yeah, we're experimenting a lot with a lot more things to bring to the table. Like I said, we're gonna start messing around with mix breakdowns, so you can just kind of see what went into some of the mixes that DK has done. We're gonna go into some of the mixes that I will do, and DK will tear me to shreds in front of all of our listeners on my mixes. And yeah, it'll be fun.
There you go. So once again, thank you so much for listening to the Mixing Music Podcast. James is the man, obviously, and we talk about this sort of stuff in depth in 15 to 30 minute chunks, so like bite-sized chunks. So if you like that shorter form, straight to the point podcast style, as well as just consistent, practical, specific tips for bettering mixes, because we get really philosophical on the regular channel. I dive deep in, like, psychology and, like, business, because the point of the podcast is to help people grow their career. But if you specifically want technical tips, mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive. James and I do that, and I think you can tell the chemistry that we have and how good of a job James does in curating the information to make sure that it is benefit to the listener as we break down nuances, break down stereotypes, and to help better your practical mixing skills through personal fuck-ups and personal victories. That's literally...
And we improve your marriage. We will make your marriage better.
We do that?
Oh yeah, we have pretty bad marriages. Never mind.
I'm teasing. No, but that's one of the things right now. I don't know how to. I'm always awkward with how we sign off on podcasts.
Yeah,
we change the sign offs every single. I don't know what it is. I can't come to. Recent sign offs have been technical tips to improve your life.
Yeah. DK, I'll just be like, all right, DK, sign us off, and he'll sometimes get very deep and philosophical, or just tell you to use lotion.
Yeah, use lotion, you ashy son of a bitch. That was one of the sign-offs.
Yeah, it's so awkward shaking, like, a dry hand, especially when it's a dry hand that they, like, squeeze your hand too hard.
You know me, man. I feel so awkward just shaking any woman's hand. Just.
Yeah, I don't know how to make eye contact.
I don't know how to make eye contact.
I look at my wife. I'm like, "This okay? Am I all
right?" my dad never taught me how to interact with women.
You get more of that too.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy.
Hell yeah. Y'all be shaking sandpaper. I would say a weird pet peeve I have is when someone like squeezes too tight. When it's not even like a firm handshake,
Oh,
but
I
it's
hate
like
when
the
they-
weird squeeze, the knuckle squeeze.
Yeah, this thing,
Yeah.
swing.
Like I'm
instead
chill,
of,
I'm chill with
in.
like a firm one, but like if it's like the weird knuckle squeeze, it's like
Yeah, where they, like-
overcompensating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will I don't deal with it.
Really?
Meaning if they do a bad handshake, I say do another one.
Really?
I do.
The
Like,
power move. You power
no,
move
it's
them
not
back.
a power move thing. I'll let them save face by like, hey, I didn't do a good one. Like I'll like,
Oh,
it's like, oh, sorry,
interesting.
hold on, let me try that again. Like,
Do you do two hands usually?
if they fuck up the first, if we fuck up the first time,
Yeah.
then I will guide it with the second hand.
Do you do like that or like the?
No, most of the time it
power
also
move
leads
stuff?
into like a dap.
Yeah, that's more of a
Yeah, it
music
is.
world thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, the science of a handshake, a good handshake. Sometimes
Yeah.
we do like the Obama handshake.
Yeah, that makes me shake with my left. Oh, I do not like the left hand shake. I think my parents told me this, and I never asked them more about it because I'm like left-footed. They told me that I was born left-handed and that they like forced me into doing everything right-handed. Isn't that weird?
Well, first off, how do you feel about that information? Do you think that's true, or you don't see how that correlates? To
I don't.
anything?
I just don't know enough about like how that works
Okay,
to
so
know
it's just-
if they're
it's
telling
just-
the truth or not.
Yeah, so it's just not an important speculation. It's not only is a speculation.
I'm
but
telling
it's
you
also
something
just
about my
not
life.
important.
It's like when you're just talking about anime for 2 hours.
Okay,
It's not important, but hey, it's about your life, and I care.
So no, hold on. So the important part is, I want to ask you: do you feel like you're left-handed? That you were supposed to be left-handed? Do you feel like they took something away from you? What was the point of that?
They took my life.
Is that just like a fun fact? Were you just giving me a fun fact?
It was
or
just
were
like you shook my left hand, and I was like, oh yeah, that's like weird how like
Oh, okay, got it.
yeah,
Okay,
'cause I'm like left-footed.
I thought you just told me random information. I was like, what's the takeaway from this?
I thought it was just interesting.
I'm a-
I need
I'm
to
a-
ask them more about that.
I'm a caveman. I'm just like practical. Just like,
yeah,
what was the point of that conversation?
that's like when I was telling you something interesting about how like, hey, I discovered I had dyslexia, and now I can read better now that I understand how it works. And you're just like, I don't care about your disability. I was like, oh, okay, I was just telling you something about my life.
yeah. I'm pretty autistic in that way. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
I'm curious if you remember this. It was like one of the first times I came over to watch you mix.
Uh-oh.
I asked you the same question that I asked you before this episode because I was curious if you'd give the same
How
answer.
do I feel about abortion?
No,
I'm kidding.
no, we've already
I'm
talked
kidding.
about that.
I'm kidding.
It was like, what would you be doing if you weren't mixing or doing music? Do you remember what your answer was to that?
No.
You like, you were like mixing, and I was like still like super nervous, like being out here and stuff, and like you like stopped your mix, or like you like paused and you looked at me, and you were like, I don't even think about that because I only focus on mixing, and that's what makes me great.
I done that? That's fucking badass,
And
bro.
I was just sitting there like, yeah, I would do econ. I don't know.
That's fucking badass. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's like non-relatable and kind of douchey, but I actually am okay with that. Like that's a
Yeah,
That's
I told one of the other interns or whatever. I was like, "Does he normally answer like that?" And they're like, "Yeah, he sometimes does."
yeah, dude.
But it wasn't like bad. It was just like oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know how to be human, dude.
Yeah, that reminded me of on my mission.
That's
I
pretty
was training
badass.
someone.
though.
No, that was like a
Out
cool
of all the
answer.
stupid things I could have said,
Yeah.
I'm glad it was that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I was
ahead.
just like all nervous. Oh, okay. But I was just making small talk with him. He was having like a rough time being out. He was like new, and I was training him on the mission, and I was just making small talk. I was like, yeah, like what's your biggest fear? And he was like, my whole family being murdered in front of me. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm like scared of tight spaces. I didn't know how to react to that. I was like, yeah, I'm really claustrophobic. That's my thing.
That's we say in Japanese like to be heavy.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, it's like you were asking lightly for small talk. What are you
Yeah.
scared of? And then he said, my murder bit, like the heaviness of that like
Yeah.
that was so unnecessarily heavy. I meant it in like a light conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I've
that, or
had-
like Debbie Downer in American, you know?
Yeah. I've had people. I've like trained people who were like really struggling. I've had someone I was training on my mission punch me. Like
yeah,
in
you
the
are
face.
a punchable guy, dude. I think
I've been punched. I've been punched twice in the face.
Like, if I'm
and
gonna
both-
punch anybody, I would punch you,
Oh,
right?
come on.
You look like you can take it, dude. Yeah.
I could. Because both times were like by a friend, someone that I was very
Uh-huh.
close to, and very out of the blue. So like it wasn't even like an altercation. It was just like a weird. they snapped, and I happened to be the one they snapped on. And it was just like a
And
punch.
just like emotional immaturity.
Yeah, like one of them was like
So
my best
they
friend.
also thought that you were, out of anybody in this world, if anybody
Yeah.
could take it, it would be you.
Yeah, like one of them was like my best friend. I stole his car, which was a douchey thing. It was funny. So we were driving, and so there were some kids, and they threw a rock at his car, and so we got out to yell at them, and I thought it'd be funny to take his car and drive off. And so I started just driving down the road because he was trying to act all tough, and it made him look kind of funny. And then I like stopped, and he opened the car door, and he just like socked me in the face, and I was just like
In the face.
yeah, like he like socked me in the face. I was
Like on the jaw? Like
Yeah.
did it wobble your brain?
yeah, it was like
Jiggled your brain?
I don't know. I don't remember like my head hurting, but it was just like more of like he punched me.
Yeah.
Like I was just sitting there like he just punched me in the face. It was like he had a lot of
my
family stuff going on.
my punch in the face story is very omoy. It's very
Yours
heavy.
is
so
sad. Yeah.
mine's like a very sad one,
Yeah,
so I don't
yours
think
is-
it's worth bringing up.
Yeah. But my other one was my companion. We were wrestling in the kitchen, and we were in a trio. And for some reason, out of nowhere, like it was one of those things where like you're wrestling, and then someone starts getting serious. Like it's like play wrestling, and then it gets serious out of nowhere. And so he started getting mad, and so I like he was like, "You're only winning because you're fat," because I was like a lot heavier than him.
Hell
And
yeah,
so,
dude.
To make a point, I grabbed his knees because he was kind of a skinnier guy, and I folded his knees to his chest, and I like held him up like a baby for a little bit. It was mocking him, right? It was kind of a dick move. And then we like sat down, we got back to our studies or whatever, and then I just like said like, it was like awkwardly quiet. So like to break the awkwardness, I was just like, well, at least I know how easy you are to take in a fight. And out of nowhere, just like he like hit me, and I was like, what the? And then he stood up, and he like did like the falcon punch that like
Oh yeah, the
with
kick
foot
and
or
the two
whatever.
punches.
Yeah, and he completely missed and stuff. And like
I think that's the point of the punch. You have to miss. Like-
yeah. my poor other companion, he was just super nervous, just sitting there watching it all go down.
So you did provoke it a little
I
bit.
did provoke it, but it was like a punch. I was like,
Okay,
whoa.
you made it sound like some random homeless dude just came up to you and was like, "Give me some crack." And punched
Oh
you in
no
the
no
face.
no. Yeah, they're luckily I'm better at it now, but I had a big issue of at like the worst time just doing those last jabs, and then I paid for them.
Nah, I've never provoked a fight. I'm just too small and unassuming. I'm just not. Yeah, I don't.
You're sweet.
I don't. I'm a silly little boy.
Yeah, you're silly
Yeah, I'm
little
just a sweet little silly little boy. And if
Yeah.
anybody ever hates me on the internet, I'm just like, why would you ever hate on a silly little boy like me?
It's me. Me? Come on, me. There's
on a
like
silly
innocent,
little
like anime characters. Me? You can't hate me.
Yeah, why'd you? It says a lot about you just hating on a silly little guy.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, there's one last thing. I almost got jumped at my school. I remember that because like
Dude, what is up? I've never had any of these experiences.
really, I was.
Dude, the one time that do you want to hear my punching story now?
Can
It is-
I
will-
tell this one?
Go ahead.
It was real quick. It's a really quick
Oh, you
one.
know, okay, you got one.
There's this one guy, and he was like a part of. I don't even know. It's like a weird gang, but not like it's like a Utah gang, so not even a serious gang at our
it's
school.
Not, it's AKA. It's not a gang.
Yeah, it's not a gang. And
Utah gang. What the
it
fuck is
bothered
that?
me. I guess I was kind of
They
white.
call those Native
white
Americans, dude. Indigenous Americans,
Indigenous
dog. It's not a
Americans.
gang, dude.
Which is the ethnicity of my friend that punched me in the face. Fun fact.
Oh, that's funny. So what do you think?
Yeah. We would all. Never mind. That's a different story. He's funny because he's very racially ambiguous, so he gets pulled over, profiled a lot. Anyways, there's this guy, and he would always walk through the hallways and shoulder check everyone, even girls, and so like it made me mad. And so every time I saw him, even if he was on the other side of the hall, I would just shoulder check him, and he had no idea who I was. So
What,
out
are
of
you
nowhere,
Korean now?
I guess is that a Korean thing?
Yeah.
But yeah, he would just like plow through people, and so I would go out of my way. I would even be talking to someone, and then like I would go and like shoulder check and go like back to talking or whatever. And like one day after school, I was just standing there talking, and I noticed like him and like his gang guys, not really gang, they were like all like circling around me like in the main common room, like eyeing me down. And my friend Cooper was with me, and he's a really big guy too. Like he wasn't as big then. He was starting to get kind of cut. And so like he was like, James, what's going on? Like these guys, because I didn't notice it, but he was like, James, these guys are like looking at you and like circling, and they were like starting to like move in and stuff. I was like, I don't know, Cooper, but stay close to me. Because it was like probably like 3 or 4 of them doing it, but luckily
Wow.
nothing happened. But I was just like sitting there like, man, I'm gonna get jumped.
Yeah,
It's time.
there's no point where I even come close to provoking another person into punching me or hurting me. Like it's to the point where like I've never thought about whether or not I'm gonna be in a fight.
Interesting.
Like I've never been that close. I don't think it's because I've avoided it either, or I haven't been around it.
Yeah.
It's not that. I don't know. I guess my demeanor is one of not provoking
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm just a small little silly little guy.
Silly little guy. I think mine is I'm just the straw that breaks the camel's back because I make those smart remarks when the smart ass
Yeah.
remarks at like the worst time.
See, I make a lot of smart ass remarks, but like not to be a smart ass, but like out of genuine curiosity.
Oh,
I would
that's
say
why I do it.
most of my problems in life have come from people misinterpreting and taking personally what I'm saying
Yeah.
instead of like just taking for what it is because I meant it for what it is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't mean that to belittle you. I'm just genuinely curious, and I meant that without malice. But now you're seeing malice. So like I've just
I get that.
it's to the point where
that's
like
something I had to like realize is like, okay, he's
yeah,
not being a dick.
you know,
He gets
like I'm
it.
not being a dick. I'm just being straight.
I think Braden literally warned me about that. He was like, just so you know, DK doesn't hate you. He like asks questions that way
Yeah.
or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So like there was even a time in college where like for like a year, an entire group of people hated me
Really?
because at the beginning they thought I was making fun of my then girlfriend
Yeah.
whose father passed away.
Oh,
So there was a
shit.
some joke about fathers, and my wife and I laughed because I took it as I have a terrible father.
Yeah.
And then my wife even laughed because she understood that I have a terrible father.
Yeah.
And then, but everybody else in the room thought that we were making the fun of the fact that her dad died.
Oh shit.
So
So you're
for an
dating the
entire-
girl?
Well, my now wife.
You're now. Oh, okay.
And it was like our group of friends that we were hanging out with.
Yeah.
And for like 6 months, because they're Japanese and they're not very assertive,
Yeah.
like they sent an Australian dude to talk to me as their representative.
Yeah.
The collective thinks that you're an abusive son of a bitch, and this is the reason. So they misinterpreted an entire
Oh.
6 months worth of actions based on that one.
Yeah.
Like that's my life. That's just normal.
Interesting.
That's how I live life. So a lot of people think I'm a dick,
Yeah.
and I probably am, but at the same time, it's like I also, but in a good way, I've also created a circle of friends that like can be totally real and honest around me.
Yeah.
That
That's
don't
good.
have to be scared because yeah.
Yeah.
And to a
there's-
certain degree, like if I think you're being a jackass, I will tell you you're a jackass.
That's good.
Because at the one conclusion, like if I call you a pussy, we're in the same circumstance that like being a pussy is not a bad thing.
No, sometimes funny.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Like what does that mean?
Yeah.
You're scared that you can probably get a better job and be happier in life with me.
Yeah.
Like a fear is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's totally okay to be a pussy, I still think you're a pussy. Like you know, like,
Yeah. No, I get that.
like I'm not being it to be negative. It's more like, yeah, sometimes we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a side note, but it reminded me of that when you talked about the girl's dad dying. One of my best friends was dating someone for a few months,
Uh-huh.
and he was about to break up with her, and then her dad died. And so he like didn't know.
Oh, That's
What do you do in that situation?
That's omoy. That's omoy.
He was waiting for. I think he had to wait because it was just like her dad died, and then she had to go fly to like another state for like 2 weeks, and so he was like, "Do I break up with her over the phone or like?" What do I-" He was in this
You should
weird
stay in that
situation.
you should stay in that situation just for the sympathy.
No, it was like a thing where he was like, I don't know when to. And then I think it was after
I
like
don't know.
3
That's
weeks.
hard. Like,
right?
imagine like, okay, maybe you go in the direction of you want to come off as a dick. Like, you know how they do that in movies sometimes, where like
Yeah.
the man in this situation wants you to run away because they think it's better for you, so they totally get you to hate them. So you run away and you feel less guilty about running away, but
Yeah.
the man just like guts that painful feeling,
Yeah.
you know, or like whatever.
Yeah. Like she was saying,
Nah,
like,
that would-
oh,
that
I
would help
miss you.
too.
I miss you. I'm gone. And he like, because he's like someone
That's
too.
tough.
He doesn't want to lie, and so he'll like kind of avoid saying I miss you too.
Oh, babe, I know this is a really hard situation, and I think it's something that you would benefit more from taking this on alone.
Without some
Yeah,
shoulder to cry on.
your dad died. Wow, that's crazy. That's not the only male figure you're gonna have.
Yeah.
There's no way out of that situation. That
I
is
know. It
so
was. I
tough.
felt bad for him too. He was like,
Oh,
he was
shit.
just. I think it was after 3 weeks that he was able to. But he was like, I feel so bad because those 3 weeks he was just like stressing, and he felt bad because like he was in a relationship he knew he wasn't going to be in anymore,
Yeah.
and he didn't know how to end it because her dad literally just died.
Yeah, those are. Do you want to hear something dangerous? And this is
Yes.
actually pretty important. I don't know. No, it wasn't you that we talked about this. I
Yes.
talked
And
about.
then after this, we should get to the podcast.
Yeah, we
too.
should.
Yes.
Do you have a concept for this one? This next episode for the exclusive?
The mix
episode?
breakdown.
Okay. Should I get off live stream? We should get off live
Yeah,
stream.
we'll get
for
off
this.
live stream.
We'll get
for
off
that,
live
yeah.
stream.
But
for
everyone's
this.
enjoying this, I think.
Yeah. This is real. This is something that you need to take into account, and it's something that I am fully aware of the dangers of. So real quick, a couple definitions within the realm of philosophy. Kantianism versus utilitarianism. Utilitarianism believes that the ends always define the means. That if you get the right result, how you get to that result doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Kantianism is more the philosophy that the means are more important than the end. Like if you can save somebody, but it takes horrendous actions to get there, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's the process that's important. And obviously in life, it's always a balance of both, like in the middle. And then there's another couple words that I need to bring up, which is moral relativism. So it's like, are you morally? Is morals relative based on culture, ethnicity, location, religious context? Like morals are relative. And then there's moral absolutism, which is like no matter what, laws are laws given by God. In most cases, that's usually where it is. And it never changes. There's no exception. Yeah. Obviously, in both left, like it's similar, like moral absolute utilitarian. So I kind of like longitude, latitude kind of thing. Like there's the XY kind of graph. The best is in the middle. Understanding is in the middle. That's the healthiest. I will be totally straightforward. Is that, and here's the thing. One time a doctor recommended that I should be tested for autism. It does not mean I have autism. It does not mean anything. I'm not, and I never, whatever. It just means that he thinks that I should have been tested. I never did because I don't think that information would help me.
There's no explanation for
There's
what you have.
Yeah, whatever. I know that I'm just kind of a straightforward, sometimes come off dickish because I'm very honest. There's many times where I lean a little bit towards utilitarianism and moral relativism. So like, which is kind of like that's like actually a pretty bad combination, which can lead to like fascism. Yeah, exactly. Like for example, in ethics, like the trolley cart thing. Yeah. I have a hard time understanding why nobody would like if you have to the trolley concept is if you don't touch the lever, 5 people are going to die. If you do touch the lever, it'll change courses and only one person will die. Yeah. And most people, it's totally normal to nobody wants to touch the lever because they don't want to feel like that they were responsible for any deaths. So to step away. So that's like the traditional thing, and it's pretty normal.
I've never heard that part of
this is I will say to you right now, without getting into the more nuanced complexities, like if my one was my son, that totally changes the scenario. But if it's 5 random people versus 1 random people, I have a hard time understanding why nobody touches the thing.
Interesting. I've never heard that
it's not just I would pull the lever. Yeah. It's just I also have a hard time understanding like why wouldn't you pull the lever? Yeah. Like that's fucked up. I honestly think it's fucked up if you don't pull the lever. Like I think there's like this baseline I'm willing to have the responsibility. I'm willing to take on the weight and the responsibility of doing that, and I don't know why other people aren't. First off, nobody's ever going to be in that situation. It's incredibly cruel to put anybody in this situation. Yeah. I know that I'm not a psychopath because I do feel guilt and I'm unable to take advantage of anybody else. But it's more of a based on like I'm willing to take on, and this is a big underlying personality thing for the podcast and the philosophies that I believe in, which is more about empowerment through taking on sacrifice. Like I literally. I live on the law of sacrifice. Like I do think that if you want something, you have to earn it. Yeah. And that is and for me, I think that that's very empowering. Yeah. And it's a big philosophy. But so anyway, sorry. There's it's a self-aware, dangerous thing that sorry, I don't.
So are you the guy in the zombie apocalypse that would like?
I would
sacrifice one person to save the group.
It would probably be difficult. Yeah. But if anybody, like if someone was infected and it would be better for the entire group to kill them, I probably would have no issue killing them.
But like, no, like more like you're all running away from the zombies and one person stumbles and you know in your mind, everyone will get away if the zombies focus on that one person down.
No, I'd probably help that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know to trust you in a zombie apocalypse.
No. So it's not like that. Like it's not like, because I'm not doing it for personal gain. I'm not willing to sacrifice others for personal gain.
Okay.
Although in the trolley situation, if the one was my son, I would kill all 5 bitches.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is, I
I
better understand the trolley question now because it was never presented to me that it was already. I was always just presented like, do you
Yeah.
kill 5 or 1 person? I was like, oh yeah, does you kill 1 person? I never knew it was like you have to. If it goes to the 1 person, you're the one that changes it.
Yeah, I will say that like where I do lean a little bit more morally Kantiistic is also like the classic ethical situation is like if there's 4 people that are about to die that need some sort of a transplant for an organ transplant,
Yeah.
and 1 healthy person, killing this 1 healthy person can save 4 lives.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody that's dying has the right to has a right to have a say in that matter at all.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think so that's like the one thing where I don't think the ends define the means there.
Yeah.
Like I think
You have enough of whatever that one thing is. That
Yeah,
you
I
could-
think
you
it's
could
better-
see the ambiguity.
of course. I just tend to be a little bit more leaning in one direction, which is like the slightly scarier. Like I also am self-aware to know that I don't think I should be in a position of power.
Interesting.
Like I don't think that I would do well in a big, like I don't think I would do well in Elon Musk's position.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do well in a big like church position. I don't think I would do
Ah.
well as a CEO.
Interesting. Because of power.
I don't think power would corrupt me. I just think that I will naturally not be able to. I don't think I understand human complexities enough, human emotion enough.
You think you would go more numbers over?
Which one also might be the best
individual?
thing for me, like because I
Okay.
don't give a shit about ruining your life by laying off half the group company.
Yeah.
Like for some reason that's like a difficult decision that it hurts and it's obviously bothersome.
Yeah.
But if it's a decision that needs to be made, I kind of like it. Even at the studio, I fired people, and it's like as difficult and awkward as it was. I like knowing that I'm the only one that has the balls to do this.
Yeah. That's good.
That's really interesting.
Huh.
Sorry.
DK likes to fire.
No, I don't
That's
like
the
to fire.
lesson. He
I
loves
like
it.
to be the guy to sacrifice for the group.
Every time I talk to you after you fire someone, you have a big smile on your face, just like, man, I love firing people.
No, I don't.
No,
like
I'm kidding.
it.
He doesn't
I
do
don't-
that.
yeah.
That'll just make me look bad in front of everyone. Damn.
Anyway,
All right.
but I'm also like too old to like not worry about this sort of stuff anymore. It's like I'm at a point where like I'm just who I am, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. Oh yeah. Since we're opening the mix, we'll probably have to close. So are you able to record video when doing the?
yeah, I can do whatever we want.
I'll mess around and then I'll like be able to edit it together. I think if we do it right, I have some like kind of more curated questions to guide it. Obviously this will be an experiment with it, but if we do the mix breakdown right, I think we can make 3 episodes out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
All
we
right.
we will have content to be able to post on social media, like clips, because there will be video to go with it to kind of show it.
All right. All right, I'm gonna stop the live stream. Sorry,
yeah.
I was thinking for a moment. All right, I'm gonna stop the live stream. Thank you so much for listening.
Have a good one.
Sorry for going on a tangent about myself for about an hour
Yeah.
or for 30 minutes.
Ooh, can I take this phone call? Actually, it's kind of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And see ya. Peace.
Hey, what's up?